Hello, everyone. Tom Ballard, the Groundwater Guy, here with another edition of Groundwater Talk Live for June 9th, 2022. And what we're going to talk about today is the Water Data Act and some other upcoming federal water legislation. I thought we'd take some time out because there is topics here of interest to the groundwater industry. And so we're just going to dive into that a little bit today and look and see what the provisions that they have in store for us as they create some new laws here. So that's basically what's going to be our on our agenda today. Before we get going, if you want to drop a comment in the chat down below, just let us know you're here, you're watching. If you're watching this on replay, then feel free to like, share, drop a comment in there. It all helps the algorithm get the word out there for the show as we grow our viewership here. It's breaking through the clutter. So your comments, your likes, your shares really help on that. So I appreciate that and appreciate all you guys that watch this, whether it's live or recorded. I personally like doing the live, and I like it when we do get interaction with folks because it makes it a little more lively. So you're just not just listening to the talking head here. So comments are always good, especially on the live stream. So here we go. First of all, what we're going to probably spend most of our time on here today is the Water Data Act. This was introduced on May 19th and is working its way through. It's overall we can we can never get enough data in this business, and that's part of the deal here is getting data, getting interoperable data, and being able to do analysis of areas and even when I'm out looking for wells, it's tapping into well databases, but looking at water levels over an area, and it's there's just a lot of data needs out there, and a lot of people collecting a lot of data, but it's not accessible, it's not interoperable, so it's hard to use, hard to find. So basically, that's kind of what this act is getting at. Um, let's look at a little bit here. Yeah, it was introduced May 19th, and I'm just going to go through this here. Um, by Melanie Stansbury she's a Democrat from New Mexico, and so this is actually from National Groundwater Association Water Well Journal article, but I'll look at it's got some information here. You can look at that. If you're a member of the National Groundwater Association, then you've probably seen some notifications on this as well. But we wanted to unpack it a little bit, and they're definitely pushing this, of course, which is good. But with all federal legislation, there's always some caveats, and so we'll kind of look at that. This is the official propaganda that Melanie Stansbury puts out on describing the act, and basically you can read here is it's House Bill 7792. And the play is that it unlocks the power of data and technology to transform water management across the country by putting data and science in the hands of communities, farmers, and water managers. The Water Data Act will create a national framework for water data to support innovation and development of next generation technologies to empower water managers on the ground. So a lot of superlatives here, and but is it really going to do this? Here's some key points down below. One is it's going to establish a national water data framework for sharing, integrating, and utilizing water data and supporting the development of innovative water technologies and tools. Certainly a laudable goal and something that I would applaud if we're able to pull this off. So. And then there's unlocking data and all that stuff. And there's going to be a bunch of stakeholders, and we'll talk about that a little bit. And it establishes a new grant program under the Department of Interior to invest in improving water data in partnership with state, local, and other organizations. So there is some money available for non-governmental agencies under this grant fund, or at least the way I read it. Um, so um, so that's those are this is kind of the official press release, as it were. Why it's needed and all that, but let's dive into the act itself and look at some of the provisions here. Um, we're let's go up here. This is the original draft of the bill, so it doesn't have. I think it's 77. What is it? It's 7792. So they don't have the number in here yet, but that's what it is. It is a basically it is a the bill here. We'll go through some provisions here, but what my problem with these things, and we'll kind of look at it in this framework, is that you go heavy on the bureaucracy, and there's no two ways around it. Is you define all these stakeholders, and you create these councils and departments and all this interoperability, and you got all these people, and you get so bogged down in bureaucracy as does anything really happen? So it's the goals, definitely laudable. The way they're stated, the goals are definitely laudable, but does it actually happen like that when you got this much bureaucracy? You got. Well, let's first of all look at who's involved here. So we'll just go into the bill here, and departments. These are the people that are going to be involved in your water data council. So they're going to establish a council here, and that is so yeah, so they're establishing a council. There's going to be these departments are going to be involved. So Department of Agriculture, Department of Commerce, Department of Defense, Department of Energy, Health and Human Services, Department of Homeland Security, Department of the Interior, Environmental Protection Agency, NASA. You're going to involve Indian tribes. And so you're creating this huge council with all these people involved, and things tend to get unwieldy in those circumstances. And do you get anything done? Maybe. And I'm hopeful because we really need it. So like I say, the goals are laudable. It's just you look at the bureaucracy that's incorporated here, and will it actually work? So we will see. So let's go through some of the framework here. So Section 3 here describes the framework, and this is all good stuff. I mean, if we can do this, this is good stuff. So I'm going to remain hopeful, but as always with anything that comes out of the government, I'm skeptical that it gets so bogged down in bureaucracy. So but I'm hopeful this will work because anybody that's in this business understands the need for data and the fact that we're always making decisions on not enough data, and that's really what it comes down to. So anyway, here's the framework. For the purpose of improving water resources management access across the United States, blah blah blah. Addressing droughts and floods and water management challenges and everything there. The heads of the department shall jointly develop and implement a national water data framework for integrating, sharing, and using water data. So there you go. So all those departments we listed earlier, the heads of those departments, well, they're not going to be responsible. They're going to appoint somebody, and they're going to create some bureaucracy around this. There's no way around it the way this is defined here. So what they're going to do though, and this is what's interesting, and this is what I remain hopeful on, and we will see. But as part of the National Water Data Framework, we're going to identify and prioritize key water data needed to support water resource and management and planning. So this is going to include all our normal stuff: water data sets, types, associated metadata, water data infrastructure, technologies, and tools. They're going to develop and adopt common national water data standards for collecting, sharing, and integrating water data. So basically making the different databases interoperable. So in California, for instance, you have a number of different databases that are kind of sort of talk to each other and they pull data from each other. You might have something different in Tennessee or Kentucky, and so you're so a lot of this stuff now tends to be coordinated through the USGS, and so some of it is, some of it isn't. So there's a lot. It's all over the board, and there's a lot of different formats and frameworks out there that people are using that have developed over time, and if we can coordinate those things and have a common set of language on this stuff on a national basis, we can make a lot more sound decisions on our water planning, and especially as we move more towards looking at macro planning, where we look at basin level planning and state level planning. It really becomes important to look at these larger data sets and have them be able to talk to each other and not spend hundreds and thousands of man hours trying to get the data all in one place for it to make these decisions. And that's how water management seems to be moving, especially in drier states like California. We're really looking at basin and state level management and regional level management, and so that's really where we really need to have good sets of data so that we can pull that in and we can develop our groundwater models and have all the available data, and so that's going to be important, and this could potentially be the tool to do that. So I remain hopeful here on this, and number two here, develop and adopt common national water data standards for collecting, sharing, and integrating water data. That's going to be important. If all the systems can talk to each other, and you can go in and you can go to Florida and pull water data, you can go to California and pull water data, and it's all in the same format. You can drop it in and do a study. For consultants, that would be a real time saver. Is we spend a lot of time, just gathering data. So that's going to be helpful for consultants, but even state agencies. Even regionally, as people collect data, it just doesn't work all the time. So that's going to be important. It's a need out there. So we're hopeful we can pull this off, and sharing data with between all these agencies and the states, Indian tribes, local governments, and relevant bodies. That's a big mass of data to be pulling in. So we'll see if they can actually pull this off, and it doesn't end up being some kind of half-hearted effort. So, and number three here, ensure that federal water data are made findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable in accordance to standards developed and adopted pursuant to this act. So this is referring back to sections 1 and 2 here. That this is open database data that anybody can pull. Integrating water data tools through common approaches. That there's going to be some technological solutions there. Geospatial index for publishing and linking data. So everything is going to be tied back to GIS data, and that's going to be great because obviously tracking down that data, you're going to be doing it on an area basis and indexing things into a GIS database is going to be really important to properly place this data and get it on your maps where it needs to be, and instead of trying to figure out where this well is, and we're seeing progress on this. A lot of states, for instance, have well databases that are accessible, and you can track down the wells. Some states like California, for instance, don't locate the wells. because they're worried about security issues. So you just kind of get it located within a mile, and that's not terribly useful in a lot of cases, because then what you got to do is you got to pull the individual well log, try to figure out where that well is, and then plot it on the map. And as speaking from experience, I can tell you that that takes a lot of time, because the descriptions on those well logs aren't always terribly useful, and so trying to figure it out. I've even had places where street names changed, and you're going in and you have no idea where these things are at, and you got some critical data here that you can't get properly on your map. So if they can pull this off, that would be good. That would definitely be good. And align policies. This is trying to get everybody in all these agencies to work together. Good luck with that. We'll see if that actually happens, but it would be nice if it did. Coordinating, participating in activities with the council, and then supporting the adoption of new technologies, because we do see a lot of, especially the private sector is really good at coming up with new technologies for collecting the data, and cloud data, and making things available. So, but a lot of that is proprietary. So if there's some way to take some of these monitoring well networks that are in proprietary databases, and then translate that into a more common database that would be accessible, that would be awesome. And so how they work that out with these private monitoring networks is going to be a little challenging. I mean, I guess they could pass laws at the state level and require that data be accessible to the database. But if they're paying to collect it, then they may balk at that, and instead of just saying, well, you need to provide some funding for this if it's now publicly available data. So there might be some pressure points on that, some friction points that we see developing on some of these private monitoring networks, but we will see. There are some hurdles to this. It sounds grand and glorious, but when you consider all the data that's out there and how it's being collected, there's some pretty monumental challenges in getting this all into a useful database. So what's generally been done in the past is the states tend to collect USGS data and then have private agreements for like monitoring wells, and do that and do that. But integrating all the data that's out there going to be very challenging to do. So but at least this is a step in that direction. So now here's where we start to get into the bureaucracy a little bit. So and this is where I the skeptical me kind of looks at this and says, okay, you're going to have this unwieldy bureaucracy. Will it actually get anything done? So there's usually some worker bees out there that this eventually gets assigned to, that can do that, but the government moves slowly and in inscrutable ways. So it's hard to say if this will actually happen, or if it gets bogged down in the bureaucracy. So anyway, here we go. So here's some of the bureaucracy stuff. So the heads of the departments that we mentioned earlier, all these agencies shall establish an interagency council known as the Water Data Council. So now you're going to take the heads of the Department of Interior, Homeland Security, NASA, and all these named agencies earlier, and we're going to form this Water Data Council to support the development and implementation of the National Water Data Framework. And that's going to be basically the underlings that are going to assign the worker bees to actually get this done. So they got a whole structure here. They're putting it together, but once again, here's the members of the council. So all the departments that we listed earlier, and then bureaus and offices of the departments that have a significant role or interest in water data, including the Corps of Engineers, Bureau of Indian Affairs, Bureau of Reclamation, FEMA, FERC, Fish and Wildlife Service, Indian Health Services, Forest Service, National Laboratories, National Resources Conservation Service, NOAA, the Rural Development Program of the Department of Agriculture, U.S. Geological Surveys, offices of the Executive Office of the President, including Council on Environmental Quality, Office of Management and Budget, Office of Science and Technology, and other federal entities that may, that they may deem need to be involved. So you start to see the picture of this council that has got so many people on it that it ends up being unwieldy. Now, what happens is these people are going to assign some people to work. So I'm optimistic that they'll just pass it off to the worker bees and that they're going to assign competent people to get this stuff done. So, but you start to see the makings of the like another bureaucratic department that just kind of churns around, spends a lot of money, and doesn't really do a lot here. So anyway, here's. This basically what the council is doing is this is pretty much the goals we looked at earlier, so we don't need to kind of repeat that. I mean, it's basically just going to promote the water data sharing and the interoperability is really what this council is going to do. So, so that's what that comes down to, and so. There's going to be some reporting, so not later than 180 days after the enactment of this act and annually thereafter. There's going to have to be an annual budget submission and a report that describes the National Water Data Framework and basically the progress they're making, what kind of water data sets they put together, the goals and targets of this large council and summary and evaluation of the progress. So as with a lot of these reports, it's and budgets, it's going to get out there, it's going to get buried, and people like the National Groundwater Association will probably go and pluck this, and hopefully there'll be some accountability from some of the private groups and state agencies and those types of private groups. Like National Groundwater Association has a really good track record in tracking this stuff. So I'm hopeful that those agencies or those organizations will kind of hold their feet to the fire and try to get some of this stuff done. So here's an important one: opportunities to develop and incentivize the deployment of promising next generation technologies, including new water data technologies and tools, in partnership with the private sector. So the private sector is going to get pulled in here, and thank goodness for that, because that's really where most of the innovation occurs. So it's a nod to the private sector, getting them involved, and I do salute that. So and then the metrics for achieving the National Water Data Framework. So we'll see what kind of metrics they establish to accomplish some of these goals. So I'm optimistic they're going to get some things done with this. So also adding to our bureaucracy here, there's established within the Department of the Interior an advisory committee to be known as the Advisory Committee on Water Information to advise the Secretary, departments, and Council. So now you have an advisory committee to the Council, to the departments. So you can start to see why I have a certain degree of skepticism on anything getting done, because we are, true to government form, we're creating a huge bureaucracy here. So now we have this advisory committee to advise the council, which reports back to the departments, and so here we go. So it's the composition, the advisory council is all the states, Indian tribes, local governments, federal entities, water agencies, educational institutions, pretty much everybody out there that has any interest in water whatsoever, which is all well and good, but how do you organize this to to make it so that you're breaking through the noise and get anything done. So members are appointed for 4 years. So are we truly going to have people from all these different entities on an advisory council that's going to report back to the already unwieldy sized council? And then the heads of departments. So it's this is where my skepticism comes in. Is we're building a bureaucracy here. So here's the duties of the advisory committee, and pretty much the same thing. Efforts to develop the uniform standards, guidelines, procedures for the collection. Probably my guess is this advisory committee is going to be where a lot of the work actually gets done, and then the council and the department involvement is going to be a little more formal to kind of approve things, so because you have to have that government hierarchy involved. So my guess is this is probably going to be where most of it is. So the states may assign some people here to work on this and take some of the people that actually know what they're doing and pulling this information together. So okay, so lastly in here, and this is good, is a water data grant program. So the secretary shall establish a water data grant program under which the secretary shall award grants to support non-federal entities. So this could be states, and I'm assuming this could be private entities if it's but we see that government agencies tend to suck up a lot of these things. So there may be some the states may get some grants and then make subawards out to private entities to implement that, which would actually be good. So this is going to be where a lot of the work gets done, and there's going to be some money involved here. And then to advance the development of water data infrastructure, support programs and projects that facilitate water data sharing and use in water resources management and implementation of the National Water Data Framework. So that's going to be the crux of this, is interoperability of the data. And collecting more data, yes, but interoperability of the data we already have. And then lastly, and I kind of color this differently because this is kind of a what? To provide a prize for accelerating innovation and developing next generation water data tools and technologies. So they're going to establish, I guess, since this is under the grant program, they're going to establish some kind of dollar prize for somebody that accelerates innovation in developing next generation water data tools. So whether there's going to be one or more of these, I don't know, but there's going to be some kind of cash prize there involved. So that seems to me to be a little bit odd. I just I'd rather see them take that money instead of turning this into awarding prizes and stuff like a carnival. Is that we actually provide grants for worthy endeavors in the private sector to develop innovative tools, because quite frankly, that's, as I mentioned earlier, that's where most of the innovation is going to come from, is the private sector, and there's a profit motive there, and that's why things get done, other than the government. So that's so there you go. That's mostly the crux of it. There's coordination with the council on the grant programs and who's eligible. You can see states, water agencies, educational institutes, so universities are eligible, and even down to individuals. So you can see that so private companies and even individuals are eligible for these grants. So realistically, will that happen? I don't know. A lot of times, I think it's probably more likely that you would see Steve go at the states or water agencies, and that they would then dole out those funds to private entities to do the innovative work there. So. And there are some requirements here, and that's the gist of it. They're basically $15 million for this. So it's it's not an insignificant chunk of change. How much of that will get burned up in running the bureaucracy, and how much will actually get spent? As always with government appropriations, that is really the question of the day. So that's that's kind of what we're looking at there is will things will things get done with that money, or will they burn it all off and have like $2,000 to spend on grants and stuff like that? So we will see. So that is there. This is like $15,000 a year for fiscal years 2023 through 2027. So really, this is a 4-year program, and so $15 million a year over 4 years. So that's not that's $60 million, not an insignificant sum. So, but like I say, a lot of this money that they appropriate tends to get burned up in the bureaucracy, and how much actually gets out to actually doing the work. We shall see, But as always, like I say, I'm a skeptic on some of this stuff, and but Lord knows we need this. So we need that interoperability of data. We need more data. I can always use more data in my work, so I do like to see this, and I applaud that. So that's really kind of what we're looking at here. So, all right. So the other one I wanted to talk about briefly today was the Water Resources Development Act of 2022, also known as WRDA. This is an act that gets reauthorized every few years, so nothing. They put new stuff in it every year, and there's something in here this year that I think is worth considering. There's a lot of pork stuff in here. They dump a lot of pork stuff and a lot of studies, and some of them are worthy studies. Some of them are pork barrel stuff, and then there's some questionable stuff in there as well. I'll point out some of that. Some of this act, this current act that's out there, and this passed out of the Appropriations Committee, I believe, and is now working its way to the full House. And so it is. It's like I say, it's an act that continues on with some things. It specifically in here they call out some things that are being discontinued, and so that's something that we want to look at as well. As I'm all for discontinuing programs that that don't contribute to anything. So this calls out some of that as well. So let's just dive in here a little bit on WRDA. And so let me bring up my screen share here. This is, okay, bear with me here. This is the press release from National Groundwater Association through the Waterwell Journal, basically calling out some aspects of this. Now, WRDA relies very heavily on the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. I'm not quite sure why that is, but it does. So you'll see a lot of references to the Army Corps of Engineers in here, and some of what they're asking the Army Corps to do is probably, certainly something I would consider outside their scope. So it's kind of to me, it's a little bit odd. I know they've been doing it this way, and certainly the Army Corps has a lot of geologists and engineers. Certainly, probably more natural resource type oriented folks in the Army Corps than any other government agency, which may be why they're calling on the Army Corps here. But some of it kind of makes sense. Some of it does not, but they're lumping everything under the Army Corps of Engineers. So that's so you'll see that in here, and I just think for some of these things, it's a little bit odd. But okay, so one of the things in here is the expansion of the managed aquifer recharge. National Groundwater Association summary calls us out here. So MAR projects, MAR projects, managed aquifer recharge. So aquifer recharge projects is really what it comes down to, and they're going to have the Army Corps work on some of these things. So they may actually try working on some innovative stuff that can make it out to other areas. This to me does not seem like the right place for this, but it is an organization that they can turn things over on a national scale, and it may be where they. I probably would have gone with somebody like the USGS or something like this for this, but because the way the MRDA is set up, Army Corps gets the call here. So I would argue against that. So the Army Corps did, in a few years ago, produce a report called Managed Aquifer Recharge and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Water Security Through Resilience. And part of the current WRDA basically wants them to update that and expand on that. So that's kind of what some of the highlights here. There are some other things. There's a whole bunch of stuff in here, like any congressional appropriations bill. So we're looking at that. This is just a summary from American Society of Civil Engineers, ASCE, talking about this. They don't talk so much because ASCE doesn't deal with groundwater so much. And probably somebody's going to call me out for that, but they're more interested in the infrastructure stuff. So they're basically saying the bill provides $24.6 billion for 21 new U.S. Army Corps of Engineers projects related to ports, inlet waterways, flood risk management, storm risk reduction, and ecosystem restoration. So, what else they got in here? So they're talking about STEM careers, science, technology, engineering, management. So recruitment for those people and promoting that, dredging. There's a lot of stuff in here that probably doesn't directly it affects water resources, but it probably doesn't directly affect groundwater, which is generally our focus here. So, but they're saying it's prioritizing resilience, looking at inland waterways, the STEM workforce, dams and levees. There is a lot of provisions in here for dams and levee inspections, which is something that's been ongoing. This is not anything new. This is ongoing, and dams and levees always need to be inspected because new problems come to light. So I used to work for a consulting company, and the geotechnical side was involved in some of these inspections, and it's amazing what you come up with. So it's it's important work. Doesn't directly affect our focus on groundwater, but it can. So, all right. So here's basically the official propaganda sheet or summary sheet. I like to call it. So this was actually introduced by these people here, these folks here. So the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee actually introduced this. So this is House Bill 7776. Water Resources Development Act of 2022. So this is like an every 2 year thing, like I said. So they just kind of go through here, and it authorizes the construction of 18 pending reports from the Chief of Engineers. Once again, this is referencing the Army Corps of Engineers. 72 new feasibility studies, expedite the completion of 14 feasibility studies, and authorizes critical water and wastewater infrastructure assistance. Navigational capacity, so dredging, levees, that type of thing. More resilient communities. Our main interest is continues to expand Corps authority to address future water supply needs of communities. So this is where mostly where the managed aquifer recharge comes in, this area here. Increases coordination with tribal, minority, and indigenous communities. And environmental justice, got to have that in there because we got to be politically correct. Economically responsible, and all the blah 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 that you get from these official press releases. So we're mainly concerned in the groundwater industry and building resilience for our groundwater. So, and there's some other areas here: surface water resources. Yeah, that are important, and protecting our waterways is important. So that's good. So let's look at the actual act itself a little bit. We're not gonna spend a whole lot of time here because there's just a lot of stuff. I'll point this out here, and we're kind of getting down towards the end. So we'll look at the general provisions here. So Section 112, we'll dive into this. Managed aquifer recharge study and working groups. Once again, you got to have a bureaucracy to study this. So this authorizes a study, and once again, this is all being done through the Army Corps of Engineers. So you'll see Army Corps of Engineers pretty liberally referenced throughout here. So we have some other things going on. Flood easement database, that's Army Corps controlled properties. Levee inspections, dams, tribal partnership programs, tribal assistance, a lot of stuff in here. COVID-19 impacts to coastal and inland navigation. That's kind of like, what? So anyway, it's in there. You got to have that in there, I guess, in these days. It's just kind of like, okay, things that make you read through this stuff, you read through any of these bills, and you get to the point where there's just things in there that make you scratch your head. So confined aquatic disposal facilities, that's where they take dredged materials. Beneficial use of dredged materials. So the Army Corps really does a lot of dredging and keeps waterways clean. And you got dredged material. What do you do with that? That's an important thing here too. So Title II in here is studies and reports. So this is a lot of the different studies that this is going to fund. So, and we see a lot of these listed in here. Some of these things, quite frankly, are paybacks and pork barrel stuff, but some are necessary. I haven't gone through here to determine what was likely pork barrel and stuff, other than to point out we got Section 224 and 225 that are like, what are these doing in here? So report on socially and economically disadvantaged small business concerns, and report on solar energy opportunities. So we have a bow to the Green New Deal, I guess, here that we're slipping into a water infrastructure bill. So it's kind of like one of those things. It's just kind of like it's how government does things, I guess. They just throw these things in here. We'll slide it in here. We'll provide some funding through this, even though it makes no sense that this should actually be in here. So it's so I guess you can slap some solar panels on your dam or something like that, and contribute to the energy. I don't know. So So it's there's probably some marginal. If we read through this in detail, there's probably some marginal connection that they put in here that they kind of created this rather tenuous thread to these things. But like I say, as you go through these bills, there's always things you go, how did that end up in there? Because it really has nothing to do with what we're doing. But so you can see there's a lot of studies involved, and also here's something that's actually good as far as I'm concerned is some things you're deauthorizing. So they've gone through and they've identified some projects that are inactive, completed, they've expended their funds, so they're deauthorizing a lot of stuff. And some of these things are making some modifications on. So there's some of that as well. So that's always good as far as I'm concerned. Deauthorize things and move some of that funding somewhere else. So let's go and really what I wanted to look at was section 112 here, and we're going to scroll down to that. And kind of look at what's involved with the managed aquifer recharge, because that's really what I wanted to focus on this one here. So here we go, managed aquifer recharge study and working group. So the Secretary shall, in consultation with applicable non-federal interests, conduct a study at federal expense to determine the feasibility of carried out managed aquifer recharge projects to address drought, water resiliency, and aquifer depletion. Sounds good. So that's all well and good here. So there you go. Let me just delete that. Okay. So in carrying out the study, they identify opportunities to support non-federal interests, including tribal communities, and carried out the MAR stuff. Identify projects that would affect drought conditions, aquifer depletion, water. But this is mainly going to be involving Army Corps of Engineers sites. So it's going to establish a managed aquifer recharge working group within the Army Corps of Engineers. So a little bit more bureaucracy here. Although I will say that of federal agencies, the Army Corps of Engineers is probably one of the more efficient federal agencies out there. I know people that work for the Army Corps, and I would say that of federal agencies, they probably get more done in a more efficient manner than a lot of other federal agencies, or pretty much all other federal agencies. So I would, as far as efficient use of funds, I would put the Army Corps kind of at the top of the list as far as government agencies go in efficiently using funds. And they have some good people working there, some highly qualified people. So I'm not at all upset about this. Although I really think that the you're kind of limiting the managed aquifer recharge study by only limiting it to the Corps of Engineers, and but hopefully what it's going to be is some pilot studies that will develop some technologies and some techniques that will benefit states, water districts, and other agencies that are implementing some of these programs out there, because Lord knows we need it. There's a lot of mistakes being made in that business, and a lot of mistakes that have been made. Some pretty spectacular mistakes, as a matter of fact, that we could talk about. But so better techniques are really needed there, and so the Army Corps this study may actually help pioneer some techniques. That's what I'm hopeful here. So working group. Here's some of the objectives of the working group: protection of the groundwater supply. So, obviously, with what happened to my highlighting here? Obviously, with with any groundwater injection, you want to protect the groundwater supply. And some places like California, for instance, are overly protective, and it really hinders aquifer recharge projects. So that's so there's a balance there that needs to be struck. So they're looking at protecting groundwater supply. That's kind of a really obvious one. Um, and so they're looking for people with that experience. These are people that are going to be in the working group. This is the experience they're looking for. So some of this stuff is pretty obvious. Groundwater hydrology, probably should be hydrogeology, but conjunctive use. So there we go. Now here's kind of the results. Not later than 2 years after the date of the enactment of the act, the Secretary shall submit to the Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure, where this bill originated, and to the House of Representatives and some other committees, a report on managed aquifer recharge that includes the results of the study, and then a status update on the implementation of the recommendations, including the report that I mentioned earlier that the U.S. Army Corps developed earlier on managed aquifer recharge. So they're going to update that, and so that's an interesting report, and I'd urge you to look at that. That's going to be updated. So here they want to make some recommendations on more bureaucracy. Planning center, that usually means that's code word for more bureaucracy. So I think if they kept it within the Army Corps, they'd probably be okay and dispense the technology out there. So, and here's some of the definitions they use. So that's pretty much it. So basically, it's a study that needs to be presented. There's 2 years to do this study. And the Army Corps, will present a recommendation. The reason it's 2 years is because this act really they basically this act comes up every couple of years, so that's why the 2 year time frame here. So they want to report back before they reauthorize it. My guess is if there's progress being made, that they will probably extend that act and go from there. I mean, 2 years is not a lot of time to work on developing technology, drilling wells, testing technology. I mean, 2 years barely gets you going. Even in a relatively efficient agency like the Army Corps of Engineers, 2 years is not much time. So, although we could certainly use that technology like right now, but certainly we're taking a step in the right direction here. So that is WRDA, that 2022 version. We obviously didn't go through a lot of the provisions in there. I was only focusing on the groundwater in the interest of time, but that's our so what we're talking about for today. Like I say, post any comments you might have on these things and my thoughts. Like I say, I am eternally the skeptic when it comes to government agencies and government studies, that they get so bogged down in the bureaucracy that not much actually gets done. So I'd like to see most of the money go to the worker bees, but generally it doesn't happen that way. So that's my 2 cents worth. But if you disagree, go ahead and post in the comments. I'm always happy to have that discussion, and a little more optimistic viewpoint probably would be good for me. Just being the cynic that I am. So anyhow, I am Tom Ballard, the groundwater guy. I got a few other things I wanted to talk to you here about, but some upcoming classes and stuff. You can get a hold of me at tballard@groundwaterguy.com. I have a website, Southeast Hydrogeology, sehydrogeology.com, that you can go there. That's my consulting website. We have some classes coming up here. The well health check process. This is a 1 hour class. We're having we moved this due some technical reasons. June 22nd, we're doing this. It's basically doing diagnostics on your water wells, and it's a 1 hour class. good in California for contact hours for water system operators. We pack a lot of information into this 1 hour class. So that is available. That's the link to register there. That'll be coming up June 22nd. For a little bit deeper dive, we have our systematic well management class. So we're looking at the entire, every stage of the well's life here. That is a 6-hour class done 2 hours a day over 3 days. So really kind of designed around water operator system schedule. That's going to be July 12th through 14th. And there is the registration link for that if you're interested. These are both paid classes, but I think our prices are fairly reasonable on that compared to other people's. But you do get a certificate. It's good for contact hours in California. If you're in another jurisdiction, we'll provide you a certificate, and you can use that as well. So. Here are some other ways to get a hold of me. You can watch this show and the past shows on the Groundwater Guy YouTube channel. Just look us up there. All my past shows are on there. We got kind of a diversity of topics, and so appreciate you looking there. Leave comments, share, like. That's always good. And then on LinkedIn.com, I stream live into LinkedIn, and I'm pretty involved in LinkedIn. It's my main social media, so you can get a hold of me there, and that I actually probably respond to LinkedIn more quickly than even email. So that's a good place to get a hold of me. So if you want to be a guest on Groundwater Talk Live, we like having guests on to talk about the water industry. So feel free to book yourself, and we'll talk about that. If you got a topic of interest to the water industry, doesn't necessarily have to be groundwater, but usually groundwater related is our main focus here. So, but we've talked to farmers, we've talked to equipment vendors, well rehabilitation contractors. So it's whatever's useful to groundwater and water well operators, we'd love to have you on. So here's the opportunity. You can just go on there and book a session. That'll take you right in, and you can set it up, and we'll go from there. All right. Wrapping things up. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you want to know when we get new videos up there. Hit the alert button, the little bell, and that is the Groundwater Guy YouTube channel. So that's a wrap for today.